Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves. All right, give us the 2023 forecast. Let's do it.
Okay, we're not going to do a full forecast today, so sorry about that. But it's going to be a strange year where everything's going to be more or less as we have experienced it in our recent past, but it's not going to feel the same as it did before. And that's because, well, not only is our consciousness rising, but we can no longer keep hiding from the truth as a result of that consciousness. I mean, and this flows from the previous episode. I'm just saying this. This flows from the previous episode where it talked about how once you really connect with your divine self, especially when you're in higher consciousness, you really can't hide from the truth. You are going to see that things outside of your life are sucky, whether they impact you directly or not. You can really see shit for what it is because you can see yourself for who you are.
But I thought that you said that there was only one truth, which is we are the divine.
Can you say that with like a little less derision?
I don't know.
Probably not. I'll just say it in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Like oneness consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
Like whatever that means.
But yeah, so if that's the one truth, then what are all the other truths?
They're merely reflections of that one, which is...
The divine is all the things.
Is all the things, including the fucked up stuff. Hence the prior episodes. But we've corrupted that one truth because of our experience of separation that tells us that we're not good enough. We're not perfect. We're born with original sin. We'll never measure up. And everything that kind of falls under the sort of karmic not good enough story.
Which means that I guess our truths, which we believe are our truths, right? Oh, the truth is no one loves me. The truth is, that I'm trying to hide from. I'm not worthy. I'm broken. I'm imperfect. I'm evil. I'm undeserving. I'm broken. I don't matter. All the things, that's effectively separation then, right?
Yeah.
Because the truth is none of those things. So coming actually out of your karma into consciousness is understanding I'm good enough.
Yeah.
I'm God.
Yes.
Enough.
Yeah.
As it were.
But isn't it interesting? So if we talked about how being a fuck up is still being divine, and is karma still very much of the divine, right? I mean, if the divine created separation in order to experience itself and all the limitless possibilities that come with free will on this earth plane, then karma is just as perfect.
I mean...
So is it still a reflection of the truth or is it an untruth?
I'm asking you now.
I'm asking you. It just occurred to me. I didn't question that when I was doing the outline.
Well, I question it quite a lot, to be honest. It's something I think of a lot. Like, I guess you could argue that it's divine because everything's divine.
Mm-hmm. It is.
But at the same time, for me...
But, that's what it is.
The pain.
As a concept, it's divine. Karma itself is divine. Our experience of it is what keeps us separate from the divine because it convinces us that we are not the divine.
Yeah. So therefore, that's what hurts. Every pain that we experience is effectively the pain of we are not the divine.
Yeah.
So if you are to truly understand that you're the divine, nothing hurts.
No.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Because you can change it?
You can shift out of one belief system for another. So
I guess really...
Because there's nothing to change because you're effectively the divine always.
So I can just do whatever the fuck I want?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm the divine. No one can tell me otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we have to be able, and that's the process of karma and why it is so perfect, is that it allows us to wire in that belief system. Because that's the missing link.
Which is effectively when we talk about kind of following your heart and allowing your minds to see a different way. That's how we wire it in.
That's one way to wire it in. It really is just emerging consciousness and higher consciousness that allows that wiring.
What's interesting is that because so much of the world is set up to make us believe the opposite of that, it's actually very hard to extricate yourself from it. And even from like a really, and I was thinking about this earlier, like from a very personal perspective, I'm so used to other people telling me that I'm wrong. I'm so used to being told my world can't be as I want it in exactly the way that I desire it. It's almost like I look for it. I'm looking for people to tell me that I can't be me constantly. And whether it is even my relationship with you, or with the guidance, or with, you know, any psychic you go to or anything like that, all I'm effectively doing is looking for someone to tell me, you can believe what you want to believe, you can do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. But because there's a part of me that believes I can't, what ends up happening is that I end up going to people who reflect that belief back to me instead.
Oh, completely.
And like, you know, I remember you saying to me once about how you tend to reflect things back to people so they can see them, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It makes me rather unpopular, and I don't get a lot of invitations.
But to be fair, I feel like I'm like that a little bit, but I feel like I'm more like, I reflect back to your love. Here it is.
The same, Rhea.
But, but it also makes people uncomfortable if they feel they're broken, right? It's the same shit.
That's true.
But at the same time, what I realize is that, like, I have, in every episode for so many years that we've been doing this, I kept saying, but things could be good, right? You know?
Yes.
Or like, but things could have a bow, right? And I'm hoping you're going to say yes. And when you say yes, I'm surprised. But I'm also expecting you not to say yes, so I can remain disappointed.
Yeah.
And I think really...
Well, it's not just remain disappointed, if I may interject for a sec, but it's also because then your doubts get confirmed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it's okay, well then I was just delusional.
So how does one break through those doubts? How does one shed the end of that piece? Because it's all well and good to come out of your karma. It's all well and good to come out of your ego. It's even all well and good to be connected to something larger. But how
you keep testing that truth. You keep pushing and pushing. You know, not that I was ever really good at science, but when it comes to an experiment, you always have multiple trials. You don't just kind of do it once, expect it to work out or not, and then just declare that it was either success or failure. There's always multiple attempts, right? If it doesn't work this one way, I'm going to try another. We always have to explore the possibilities, hence that episode about being a fuck up. Because we got to keep trying until we can prove to ourselves otherwise. Because that's how it works.
Yeah.
So
that's where the faith comes in, I guess.
The faith.
I have faith that it could be different, so I'm going to keep seeing if it is different in all different ways.
Well, that's knowing. Faith is remember that the universe or something has our back, right? So it's more I trust myself that I'm somehow going to get the outcome that I really desire. And maybe I don't know exactly what I'm desiring, but I know that through this process, I'm going to gain the clarity I need that will then tell me at some point, okay, this was it.
Okay.
Yeah. But we have to, and sometimes it is about proving to ourselves that maybe we didn't have it all figured out. Maybe, you know, especially if you start with a science, I can't believe I'm like going down this road because really, I really sucked at chemistry. But like, you can never start an experiment. You can make your hypothesis, right? You can have certain assumptions, but you have to be willing to be detached enough from the result that if your assumptions are somehow proven incorrect, that you can try again. The thing is, we're so invested in the outcome that, and this is kind of what you did way back in your long karmic years, a long time ago, was we don't often want to be proven we're wrong because then it means our doubts are right. So then what happens is we try to manipulate the results we're getting to then say, oh no, okay, it's okay. This is somehow reinforcing what I knew or what I suspected. In either direction.
But isn't it a great thing to want the world? Like, this is the bit, you know, I think, isn't it a great thing to be ever so slightly invested and to give a shit?
Yeah.
Of course I'm invested in my happiness. Of course I'm invested in...
But most people are not. When they're in their karma, they're not invested in their happiness as much as they're invested in getting the thing that they think will make them happy. Those are two very different things. Yeah. Right? And that distinction is important because we've attached, and this is what we were saying in the previous episode, we've attached so much significance to the evidence that things will work out in certain ways that we won't release ourselves from the relationship that's mostly toxic because we think, well, it gives me a tiny sliver of satisfaction. That we're not always asking for more or better because we think if I ask that and I don't get it, then I've given up the one thing that maybe gives me a little bit of anything, right? So the point of this is saying you need to be able to take a step back and try again until you've really discovered where your happiness could possibly lie. And it's going to be a lot. And when I say farther, I don't mean by time, but it's going to be on the other side of the place where you think it is. As in, it might be a little bit further past that point that you've given yourself.
Because you were settling for that point.
Exactly. Or your mind can only conceive of that point of, I think we can only get that far. Because the mind loves limits. The ego loves to operate within the confines of limits because it wants to know that it can do its best. It doesn't want to be proven otherwise.
But this is the one thing I think for me kind of feels like a flawed situation.
Okay.
Because
Fair.
in order to overcome our doubts, we have to see that they were not doubts.
Yeah.
As in they didn't exist, they weren't, you know what I mean? Like we vanquished them like we vanquished our fears. You walk through the fear that you're not good enough. You walk through the doubt that you're wrong, let's say, whatever. Yeah. But it's not a guarantee that your doubt isn't real.
Or founded?
Yeah. How can I fully understand to my very core that I can have everything that I want and I am my creator? How can I do that having grown up in a world which told me the opposite? And no matter how strong I am and how much belief I have in myself and how much belief I have in the rainbows and the unicorns and the good and the love and everything else, how can I vanquish all those doubts when the evidence that those doubts are real are everywhere? And not only that, but that we then cover up those doubts with some bullshit silver lining shit of, oh, well, that relationship didn't work out because this one will, or God say I was saved from that experience because it would have been harder this experience.
It's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, all that crap. I find all that crap bullshit. It's just another coping mechanism. So do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. And that's why we had that episode a couple of episodes ago where it was like, you have to be willing to keep fucking things up.
We're really going back to that episode.
We're going to keep going. I swear it's going to be like, trust, we're just keep going. Like, can you be the fuck up? Can you test the bounds of that knowing over and over and over again?
But then what happens when you test the bounds of that knowing and they seem to affirm your doubts?
They're not going to.
That was my question.
Because when you are a certain level of consciousness, you're going to keep shifting. You're going to keep pivoting. You're not just going to keep doing the same thing over and over, like running into like the glass door over and over.
No,
at some point, you're going to realize the glass is there.
You're going to figure out another way to break it open.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I guess the one difference, if I may try and answer it for myself.
Go for it. I'm not really a fan of ontological discussions, so I'm like, go for it.
I don't know what ontological means. Is how you feel. Because I think the one difference between being in my karmic relationships, even just out of my karma and whatever the fuck I was doing then, it's how I feel now. And because I trust how I feel, I also trust myself over what I see.
Yes.
Therefore, I know it's not as simple as my doubts want me to believe. And there is another way to actualize what I feel. I'm just maybe not seeing it yet. Would that be accurate?
Very spot on. I was asking if there was a point missing, and they're like, nope, it's exactly that.
Okay. That feels like the answer to me.
Because in 5D, you kind of, especially in these early stages of 5D, you have to feel it to believe it.
And I
because
definitely,
that's often the part of our consciousness that has needed to catch up, our physical and our emotional bodies, because our mental has ruled for so long, is that we're really having to bring them in full alignment.
Yeah. And the way I think about it is that I can't ignore my feelings anymore. And I have to give them credence because they are what got me out of my karma. Yeah. Right? They are what allowed me to do all the things I do today. I don't go against them. I believe them. I believe them more than my mind. I believe them more than logic. I believe them more than anything else. I have to. And so I fight for them. And I fight to listen rather than the other way around.
Exactly. Instead of trying to control everything in order to create a specific outcome, right? That the ego wants.
No, and it's not about an outcome. It's just, I know this feeling is real. So let's see how it is real in my reality. Kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, that goes back to the fuck up. I've got to test this out because otherwise I'm not going to know exactly what this is telling me.
No, and I have to, because otherwise I'm just going to be going back into someone else's reality, not mine.
Exactly, and your mind is just going to create stories around that.
Yeah,
right.
And my mind loves a story. I mean, look, don't get me wrong.
There are times. A story.
My favorite activity is driving somewhere and living a fantasy world. And having a whole like experience.
How about you not confess to you not being like present while driving?
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, fine, I'm there, but like, you know, or when I'm walking, you know, I love living in whatever world exists. And when you say multidimensional being, that's what I assumed you meant. But the thing is,
it is a bit being able to really lead full lives from all of those places. Yes. I mean, you are in all of those places at a single time.
Yeah. And all my bodies are doing something. And it's like dreaming, right? When you're asleep.
It is.
But the thing is in order to, I'm finding the thing that I'm struggling with it because it's weird, is that it's quite humbling to trust your own feelings because you have to also accept that your mind might not be right.
You just have to accept the fact that you may not have all the information at a specific time.
Yeah, to be fair, that's exactly. I don't know it all yet, but I do
reality
feel
is we can never know it all.
No, but I do think that we have the information that matters.
Yeah, and if we
whether it's the end point, I don't know if I'm talking like psychically or whatever, but like whether it's the intention or the core of it, we have the bit that matters.
We do.
How it transpires in this world and how it plays out, we can't ever know until it's done because how the fuck we meant to.
That's what humility teaches, right? The ego wants the answers. The ego wants the structure. The ego wants the rules. It wants the game plan. It wants the predictable outcome. But when we can operate in this 5D way, we operate from that space of humility, which says, well, I know enough to get me where I need to go.
I know my next step.
Yeah. I know my next step.
I can kind of get a sense of the larger picture, although I can't see how it's going to play out.
Yeah, but somehow that larger picture is leading me in this direction. So I'm just going to trust it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk that path. And then hopefully I'll get to a certain point, which I know I will because I've done this enough times that I will get to a certain point that it's going to lead me to the next. And it will reveal itself a bit more and more. And that's enough. But we need to have that humility in order to be able to do that. And that's really challenging because even post karma, until we've killed enough of our ego, we will not operate from that place of humility.
And I feel like for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, normally when I'm very sad or upset or I feel in pain, it's because I've gone against my knowing and my feelings and my truth. Yeah. Because that pain is just the pain of separation. So if something is really upsetting me or if something really hurts me or is bothering me, it's because I'm not listening to myself. No, and it's not because I'm not looking at the bright side or the silver linings. I'm just not listening to myself and what my feelings are actually telling me. Because my mind is trying to protect me and is trying to fold me back into the doubts.
And from that space, we've fallen out of integrity.
Because we're not listening to ourselves anymore.
No. And so what happens, and I see this with, some people will come to me and they'll just say, then I just really exploded at this person because they treated me so disrespectfully. And then they can't, and I'm just like, yeah, it's because you were never standing up for yourself. That it all came out at one time at 2 a.m. when you sent that, ragey text, right? That's often what will happen.
But again, when we were talking about conflict in a couple of episodes before, the thing about conflict is that we always imagine that it's going to come from this like angry place. And then we also think when we're standing up for ourselves, it has to come from a forceful place. Like I remember we had a conversation a long time ago now when you said I was learning to stand up for myself. It must have been like 2019, 2020, something. And you were like, it's going to take you a while to understand what that really means. And actually now I realize standing up for myself is not telling people that they're idiots and they're the worst and they should fall down in line. For me. Yeah. For me, because of how I love and how I see the world, it's really coming from a place of love when doing that, because I'm loving myself and the other person, because I'm able to hold both of our realities when I say either, are you okay because you're hurting me? Or actually, this isn't how you know what I mean? Like, Like, this isn't how I
This isn't
expect to be
working
treated, or this
for
isn't
me.
working for me. You can't have conflict when you're trying to overpower the other person.
Or negate their view.
Exactly. And that's humility.
To be able to operate from that place of humility just requires a great deal of power.
Why?
But
Why
you
is
were
it
able to hold that space. That takes a lot of power. You didn't try to overpower somebody to make you feel like you were powerful. You were able to allow and honor the I-thou relationship.
So that's also powerful?
Yeah. Not only are we operating from a place of power, we're taking responsibility for our views and our values, right?
Taking responsibility for an outcome that we desire. There's no point going for something you don't want just because that's what you think you should want. And I think that's the thing about humility, is that we keep thinking that it's like somehow like you're going to be proven wrong. We can always walk away. We have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if we want something to work, I guess we're going to try and figure out a way for it to work where we're not out of integrity and saying yes. I know it's not possible for me to agree to something that doesn't feel right. I've tried. I last 15 seconds. It's not possible. I physically cannot do it. So turns out there are just a lot of things I would agree to, not just one narrow view. That way that you can kind of see that there are loads of ways to live, to experience stuff, to choose someone, and to also change what doesn't work for you, because it doesn't have to be anything other than harmonious, that change.
Part of the beauty of operating through humility is that nobody starts to look to you for the right answer, so you just do whatever you want.
I really
Yeah. You're like, I don't really know. Or you're just holding the space for like multiple possibilities. Then people are like, well, I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to go to somebody who's going to have all the answers, who's going to know better. And let me tell you, they're not. Not in 2023.
When someone comes to me for advice, I'll be like, well, it could be this, or it could be this, or it could be this. It
Exactly.
could be this.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's definitely this, because how the fuck am I meant to know?
Right.
I only know how I feel.
But
And
people
even when I
want
know
that.
how I feel, I don't know why. I don't have any reasons for it. I'm like, I know the overall feeling is that there's like a love there. Any other things I can add to that? Not really. So I don't even have any answers for myself.
Precisely. And insecurity and uncertainty drives a person to want to know the answer. I mean, remember you a few years ago, you wanted absolute answers because you took it as absolute truth and gospel.
Yeah.
But we know that in 5D, the absolute truth and gospel is that we are the divine, and our fates reflect that. So the more we are living from our fate,
The more anything is possible.
Exactly. Not just that, but the more the answers are there, as long as we just keep living, they will show themselves.
Yeah.
It's because we want to know what the next step is and that it's the correct step before we take it,
But
right?
we can't. If the only step we can take is the one that feels right, that's the only correct step to take anyway.
Who else is going to give you permission to do that except you?
Exactly.
And as you often like to say, is just the power for you is to be able to give yourself permission to live, to think, to feel a certain way, right? And to act a certain way. And when you do that is when you develop your divinity, you get to live in power, right? You empower yourself to live your life for yourself, right? That's how it works. That is the key to success in 5D and living a life that one desires. That's the key to magic. So 2023 is going to be our year of humility, right? It's not about going into scenarios and coming out completely humiliated. It's about really understanding that there are a multitude of possibilities for any given scenario. That is life in 5D. That is a multidimensional existence. And when we can really operate from that space is when we can really start moving ourselves to happiness.
Okay, can I ask you a question? How do we then navigate 2023?
Well, first of all, we have our humility that can at least allow us to really consider that there are so many options and that maybe we can just explore all the ones that really sing to us, right? The ones that really do reflect joy. And so it is about having fun. And I definitely have been seeing that. I mean, just go and follow the fun because that will show you exactly where your joy is. And I think that's critical for 2023. I think we've denied ourselves so much joy and fun for, most of our lifetimes, right? I think there are a lot of people out there who still can't remember the last time they had genuine, unadulterated fun.
Can we magic that?
Yeah. We also have to be able to test the boundaries of what all that means to us, because maybe my idea of fun of a year ago is not so much fun now. Or maybe I'm just rediscovering something that I used to have fun with and stopped doing for whatever reason. And now I'm like, oh, hey, I actually really enjoy that. And it's funny, when I was doing this outline, I kept seeing Live Moms. That was like, that's right. You people just need to fucking live more.
Oh my God, yeah. By the way, that's so true.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah. Because magic is what helps drive that. And when we can really live more,
it fuels it.
Yeah.
And then more and more and more, it's like kinetic energy.
Yeah.
I don't know what kinetic energy is, but you know what I mean.
Yes, exactly. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.